Rooted in resilience, inspired by nature, powered by movement. The podcasts where healing meets empowerment. Let's rise and thrive together. And now, here are your hosts, Scott and Melissa.
Rise and Thrive, the podcast by Vital Edge Wellness Coaching. I'm here with my partner, Melissa, and we have a guest today, Ava Johanna, and we're going to talk to her in a few minutes. But first, Melissa's going to kick us off with a mindful minute.
Right. So welcome. I want you just to sit back. We take this moment just to get ourselves here and present. So if you are attending to a vehicle or you are on a walk, you're welcome to keep your eyes open. If you are able to sit back in your chair, I'd like you to join us. Take a nice big sigh. Let it out. Welcome to close your eyes if able to. Relax your jaw and your tongue. Think of this moment here as just pausing in your day. You showed up here for a reason. You clicked on to listen. So I want to invite you to be fully present as possible. And we can do that by finding that simple activity, but often overlooked, of breathing. So being that observer, if you can here, just notice your body breathing in. Notice your body breathing out. Let that drop you in, and we'll be quiet here for just a minute, and I will mind the time for you so you don't have to worry about that. Keep returning to that sensation of feeling a nice little inhale, and that smooth exhale. Thought comes through, a little distraction, just gently come back a few more moments, feeling that sensation of your inhale, sensation of that exhale. And a little deeper breath here, just a nice sigh in through the nose, out through the mouth or nose. And you're welcome to open your eyes when you are ready.
Just want to keep floating along there.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That was wonderful. I find it funny that we are doing a mindful minute with our guest, who is the founder of the Academy of Breath, who has done thousands of these on her own right. And so it's and you totally understand what this is about when we open up a session this way. So we're glad to have you here today, Ava. I'd like to introduce Ava. She's a leading voice in modern manifestation, embodiment, and unapologetic success. As a global mentor, wellness educator, and founder of the Academy of Breath, she's helped thousands of individuals step into their own power with their own voice and design a life that actually matches their vision board. She is also a best-selling author of a recently released Your Vision Board Life. And she says that you don't manifest what you want, you manifest who you are. And after burning out in the corporate environment, she went out and decided to heal herself through breathwork, meditation, and deep inner work. She's built a multi-million-dollar brand from the ground up, and her programs and trainings have supported entrepreneurs, coaches, creatives, and women navigating major life transitions and unlocking their clarity, confidence, and their calling. And I met Ava because I was burnt out. And I was looking for something to level up my own self-care and borderline burnout, and discovered her online and really loved her program. She's heard me say this, but I'm going to say it again. I look at the structure of things and how they're presented and whether they actually work for individuals. And she really attracted me to her program because of the techniques she taught and the structure in which she taught them. And I think that's what Melissa and I are trying to do as well. We're trying to help people learn techniques and then learn structures to actually implement them. I got goosebumps. Look at right there, goosebumps. Because without the structure of how to implement them, they're just techniques that don't go anywhere. And so I really appreciated that about Ava. And when we started our business, we reached out to her and engaged with her to help us with what we're doing. And it's created this amazing friendship. And we wanted her to be on our podcast as soon as possible and to tell her story and to share a little bit about who she is and what she does. And so I'll stop there. And Ava, welcome to the show. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. And Melissa, that was perfect. I love the mindful minute. I feel like we need more of that throughout our lives. And even as you were guiding it and just being able to drop in with both of you as we enter this conversation, I was like, oh, what a gift this is to be held by someone else as the one that is usually doing the holding
know that
with
feeling.
breathwork.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be here.
So many self-care providers and healers don't take care of themselves. So I understand what you mean when you say that. That's really true. So, you're a breathwork, nervous system regulation person. You really teach these things. But how did you learn these things, and what brought you to this work? I know that's a large topic, but maybe you could start about where you were and how you got where you are in this life journey of yours, because I know it's a passion for you as it is for us.
Very similarly, Scott, to how you actually found me. I was in the corporate world, and at the point where I kind of had this fork in the road where if I continued down the path that I was on, I would have been in a leadership position very quickly in the beginning of my 20s. And in fact, in one of the marketing companies that I worked at, I think it was maybe 21 years old. I was managing a team of, 16 people at this digital marketing firm. And I had this moment, I remember walking into my boss's office where I saw my life kind of flash before my eyes. I saw how miserable they were. I saw how miserable their boss was. And I just kept thinking to myself, gosh, there's got to be a better way. And at the time, I was struggling with really severe physical symptoms of burnout every other week, like clockwork. For 48 to 72 hours, I would suffer from these debilitating migraines. And I remember going to the doctor and saying, I don't know what's going on. They're coming on so strong. They last for days. The doctor asked me, well, what are your stress levels like? And I was like, I think I'm fine. Like, I'm good. And it was just like one of those things that was so baked into my reality that I didn't realize that I was stressed because it was so normalized within the corporate space. And so for me, it was really this kind of like big physical scream that was going on that eventually led me into the yoga studio where for the first time in probably my entire life, I actually felt safe and at home in my body. And I understood what it meant to feel good. Even like that mindful minute that we just did right there, it was like that little moment stretched into an entire hour where by the end of the class, I was like, okay, I just need to figure out how to make people feel as good as I feel right now. And that was kind of the snowball that happened in me enrolling in my yoga teacher training, experiencing breath work on our very first night in session. And I'm the type of personality that when I find something I'm obsessed with, I just go down the rabbit hole and need to learn absolutely everything about it. And so I think it was maybe within a year, like under a year, that I found yoga, enrolled in the teacher training, found breath work, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. But it was, yeah, Scott, it was super similar to you, just that intense burnout that was so normalized in my environment around me, but that intuitive nudge inside of me that said there's got to be more than this.
I think it's interesting. You stole one of my comments because, like I say, when she does something, she goes all in. So you just heard her in her own words say that. I think it's interesting too that uh, when you're working with people in burnout, and they can't get out of the environment like you did. I didn't want to be in that environment because I couldn't be as effective helping people get out of that and or deal with the environment if they have to stay in it. So I think that's another thing that we could make a whole other podcast about
Yeah.
is when you're in it and how you stay in it and help people with it, because it's hard for people to just get out sometimes. And you saw it very early on, and I think that's admirable.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there was somebody that was a colleague of mine at my most stressful time in my corporate career, and he would meditate at his desk for 10 minutes a day. And granted, this was over 10 years ago, but all of us would be like, what is he doing? Like, is he taking a nap right now? We're all working. We've got hundreds of clients that we're having to respond to right now, and this guy's taking a nap at his desk? Like, it was just so unbelievable, and so I think that it really is such a big conversation because at the end of the day, not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to run their own businesses. There's so much beauty in having a 9 to 5 job, the compartmentalization, putting your work down at the end of the day. And so finding a way to better use these strategies that both of you teach and that I teach in the everyday life of somebody that has a 9 to 5 job or does hold a lot of stress is so important. And I think that it's a conversation that I'm seeing happen more and more.
Well, just like I love that you shared that what is this person doing, this foreign practice, and now it's like, oh, you couldn't imagine your life without it. And it's that turning inward to realize, oh, my body's my friend and I can pair with it. And I watch this from the outside. And that's what I can see for us, as all three of us here just spreading the news, those that are in those environments being that, like I spoke with the client just this morning, like that's what they're doing in their workplace is providing that example so people can get a feel like, oh, there's something more. And they can do it wherever. It doesn't have to be the entrepreneur path, but it may turn into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love seeing that like, oh my gosh, totally couldn't live without it now.
Yeah. And I think also like when you're ready for it as well, too. I'm a big proponent in embracing your pace and your own journey. And I think that one of the things that I learned really early on when I was doing my meditation teacher training, I remember talking to my mentor, Johnny Pollard, who's absolutely brilliant. He's the founder of One Giant Mind. And I remember saying to him, Johnny, I'm so excited about meditation. How do I get everyone in my life to do this with me? And he said, you just embody it. You just embody it and they will come when they're ready. And that has stuck with me since the day he said it because we all have our own unique rhythm. We all have our own unique journeys. And the magic and the practices are going to find us when we're ready to actually accept them.
So, can you talk a little bit about how the Academy of Breath was born?
I spent the first 4 years of growing my business in Southern California, and it's a very wellness driven part of the country, as most probably assume or know. And I remember those first 4 years trying so hard to fit myself this round peg into all of these different square holes. I had my podcast that I launched. I tried working with different brands in the wellness space. I was teaching at different studios, driving around LA like a chicken with its head cut off in traffic, trying not to be late to my classes. And it was about 4 years into trying this whole entrepreneurial thing out that I realized I was approaching my journey of transformation from this really forceful energy where it had to happen in a certain way and it had to be built from this really logical analytical mind because that was ultimately what I was kind of raised on through my corporate career. It's all very much by the book, data, the numbers. You're not really bringing in a lot of creativity and intuition or at least not in a known way. And I hired a mentor back in 2019 who really just embodied everything that I wanted to experience first and foremost as a woman, but also as a business owner. And my work with her name's Amanda Merritt, changed my entire life because it taught me how to tap into my intuition, how to use all of these beautiful practices that we all use in a way that allowed me to not just have it be something that I check off the list because I'm supposed to do it, but something that I get to do for this sacred connection to myself. And Melissa, like you said, to the body. And within the first month of us working together, it was at the beginning of COVID, and I was sitting in this Airbnb on the back porch meditating and praying and just asking, like, show me how I can be of service to the world. I don't want to force anymore. I don't want to fight it. And I literally just had this vision drop in during my practice that essentially felt like almost the blueprint of you are meant to create a certification for others and you are meant to bring breathwork to the world. And I remember that day, I literally sat down, wrote out the entire landing page for it, wrote out the entire curriculum for it, and within that week, launched the certification. And before that in my business, I would, get a client every so often. It really felt like I was, again, pushing a boulder up this massive mountain. And every time that I would launch anything like group related, one person would sign up or 0 people would sign up. And it was so like heartbreaking to my ego. And that first launch of the Academy of Breath, we had 64 people sign up for the program.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And it was just like one of those moments where I was like, oh, when you lead from your
I was
heart,
going to say,
yeah, when you are willing to surrender the vision and when you're willing to put down what you think you should do and be open to what the universe or God wants you to do, you will be so supported and the right next step will be presented right in front of you. And that was such a transformational moment for me because it really just anchored into how important that trust is, how important that surrender is, and also how important embodiment is and integrity in what it is that you're doing as well.
Ava, can I ask a follow-up question to this? When the fear popped up that said, nah, maybe that voice is saying, well, maybe not. I mean, yeah, you had that happen on the porch and that's great and all, but when the real world fears, and I say real world meaning the physical world, because I don't sure that's the real world, but you know what I'm saying. How did you navigate that?
It was my practice, truly. Like breath work was my anchor that continuously brought me back into it's safe for you to trust this. At that time, that was when I took my practice from more of like a side hobby and like I was saying, like a checklist. I think that oftentimes when I think about meditation, mindfulness practices, morning routines, practicing breath work, going to the gym, it's like, okay, let me just put this on a list of my to-dos. And then if I do it, I'm good. But we don't really practice that presence and like true devotion to the practice. And so for me, when I was launching the Academy of Breath and had that idea, I knew that it was of the utmost importance for me to be literally a walking billboard for what the power of breathwork could do in your life. And because of that, because I just simply walked the walk, all of those real world fears kind of dissolved, right? It was like such a deep level of trust because I knew how powerful the practices were because I had experienced the magic in my own life. Does that make sense?
Totally.
oh, totally.
Yeah.
Because I look at like, our journey is our journey, right? And you were being primed as you got exposed to yoga, as you had the migraines, all of that was leading you towards your path and purpose. And it builds you to that moment where that fear gets dissolved when that trust. I just sensed when you were sharing about like the porch and the decision to do this and the 64 people signing up, it's like there's freedom, that release of the worry and that you're doing something that's counter. Yeah, it just opens up and feels right.
Yeah. And what's really interesting too is after I stepped away from the corporate world, and even in those first couple years of my business that were really challenging and definitely not fluid or easy, every time that I made a decision that was out of alignment with my true path, either something physical would pop up, like another migraine, or something would fall away that wasn't actually meant for me. And so it's almost like when you say yes to living in alignment with your true path, that the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in, helps, like, almost, I'm getting a vision of, like, if you go to the bowling alley and you ask for the bumpers, right? It, like, helps to keep you out of the gutter. Whether it's, like, the little symptoms of your physical body being like, "No, no, 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 too far," or it's, something chaotic happens in your life that's like, "Actually, no, don't go this way. Here's a red light for you. Go back the other direction." And I think the beauty of practices like breathwork and meditation is that you are so much more acutely aware of those little signals that it's almost impossible to ignore them.
At what
Yeah.
point does manifestation come into this? Because you talked a little bit about overcoming limitations in the mind, but how does manifestation start after you've got your vision and you have a clear kind of, or clearer? Because I know it's always
Evolving.
evolving and more clear. But tell me a little bit about the manifestation and when you realized that you could manifest, or um, in your own words, I guess.
Well, it started before I was even aware of it. It started before any of us were even aware of it. We are always constantly manifesting that which we are thinking, feeling, believing, and acting upon. And I think my awareness around manifestation started actually when I packed up my life and moved to South America. I picked up Gabby Bernstein's The Universe Has Your Back, which is also the moment that I was like, I'm going to write a book one day. But I was exposed to this world of, you have the ability to change your thoughts, you have the ability to change the way that you feel, and you have the ability to create the life that you want. And again, I became obsessed. I became absolutely obsessed with the idea of, wow, if this is my current environment, but I want something new, I can go out there and create it. Yeah, exactly. And so I think the manifestation piece has always been happening. And I think that's the thing that a lot of us don't necessarily recognize. But even on like a very nerdy scientific level, there's this part of the brain called the reticular activating system, and if anyone's listening, it's that part of your brain that once you decide, like, oh, maybe I'll get that car, that Jeep, then you see Jeeps all over the place, right? It's that part of the brain. And so when the brain is constantly focused on a reality where things are hard, then we're going to find the proof that things are hard. And so for me, once I realized that, I was like, oh, maybe that's why these stories that I've been telling myself are self-fulfilling prophecies that are keeping me in this, what I like to call the thinking, feeling, acting loop that isn't actually supporting me in progressing forward in my life. And what if I learned how to interject that thinking, feeling, acting loop to become the type of woman that has everything that I want on my vision board?
Me too.
And I love the point about the manifestation. It's always been there. It's just us, in essence, waking up to it and tapping into it. It's all there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
What would you like to ask? I know you have a bunch.
Oh, I just respect you so much and just going for it and, being able to, even amongst the hesitations or whatever, is just taking that next step, and bringing to fruition a dream and a vision. And doing that, in essence, when you shared, helping other women do that, because we often have been raised in a way to wait for someone else or to think our stuff isn't as important or whatever it may be, whatever our background stuff is. So I just applaud you for taking that and bringing it out and supporting other women to do the same.
I want to echo that. I think that it's been very important for me. I work with a lot of women clients, and it's still very odd to me that women couldn't even vote until the late 20s, and husbands had to be on checking accounts in the 60s, right? And so, anyone who's focusing on empowering women the way you are, um, goosebumps again, um, is super meaningful. It's almost emotional for me. I've got nieces, and I was raised by strong women, And I just can't say enough about the need to equalize the playing field for women's beliefs, because this is about a belief system that has been ingrained since the beginning of time, and it's super globally life changing. I'm talking about life individually, but also globally. Um, and I see what you're doing, and I want us to continue to do that as well. So I really want to honor you for offering that, because I know your target audience is women, and yes, men can come. I'm living proof, and benefit from it. But I love your target audience for that.
Yeah, I feel like it's such an interesting just thing that we have to have this conversation in general, because like we are life bearers. We are literally creating life. And that is so absolutely magical. And yet there are still so many stories and limitations to how we see ourselves. And I know that from talking to so many women and being a woman myself and experiencing it myself, sometimes I find that it's the hardest thing for us to actually see ourselves as we truly are, because we've grown up in a world where the world doesn't actually want us to see us for how powerful we are. And for me, I remember my mom and my stepdad separating when I was 16 years old. And at the time, he was the one that was primarily supporting us from a financial perspective. My little sister has autism, and I think she was about 4 years old when they separated. But her autism was so severe to the point where my mom wasn't able to get a full-time job. So she took a job at the preschool, the elementary school, the high school that my sister would go to, just so that she could be close by to my sister, just in case she needed to get pulled out. So when they separated, we very quickly did not have the resources available for a roof over our head, food in our refrigerator, even money to pay for the car that would get us to and from school. And that within itself, that experience instilled this story within me of, wow, well, as a woman, you need a man in order to take care of you. If there's one thing that you should be focusing on, it's finding a man who can support you, because women can't support themselves. And that story stuck with me really up until my mid-20s, when I started doing all of this deeper work and understanding that it wasn't just the anger and the rage that I was feeling from being in that situation, but that the way that everything had unfolded had actually shifted the way that I was focusing on my life to, rather than develop me in my early 20s and my mid or my late teens, just focus on putting all of my energy into a relationship. And while I'm so grateful that my path shifted at the age of 23, 24, there were so many years that went by where I could have been, applying for college, focusing on my friendships, focusing on my health, not giving away my identity into relationships because I thought that it was the safe route. And that has really fueled me in my business and being, louder about some of those more polarizing topics like money, to just show women that, again, there's the story that we tell ourselves, but that story isn't ultimate truth. And if the story isn't writing this beautiful novel, this beautiful manuscript of your life, that you have the ability to change it. And you have all of the tools and resources, especially nowadays, since we're so hyper connected, to be able to pivot your life at any time and start making choices literally today in this moment to, again, align yourself with the reality that you want to create.
That's beautiful. And I love too, I sit back, I look at the big picture and I think about, that you went through what you went through to get where you are today, right? And we all have done that. And I look at how you've taken that and like we're breaking some of those generational patterns. And you woke up to that, and that's moving forward to the collective conscious. I look at the big picture of like us as women stepping forward to say, hey, we're human. This is part of and breaking some of those what do I want to say? Cycles and past lives, whatever you believe. But we're carrying that for all women as we move forward. And so I just, again, applaud you and just love to see what you're doing and having, because you could have gone that other direction, right? But you chose not to. Something in you was pulling you. And that's what I love seeing in the transformations that we get to support and witness and be a part of, and ourselves included.
Yeah, it's such a ripple effect when you think about it, right? Because, you work with an individual, but the way that that individual takes the work that they do with you and extends it out into their family, into their community, into their work life, and then those people are impacted. Like the ripple effect is actually so immeasurable, and that's so beautiful to think about, is that you truly cannot measure the impact of you choosing to take care of yourself, choosing to heal, whether it's physical, mental, or spiritual or emotional. It's so much bigger than us. And I was telling everybody at the book event this past weekend, when you have a desire inside of your heart, think of it as a seed planted by something greater. And that desire is not selfish. That desire is not something they're like a dangling carrot in front of you. But the reason the desire is there is actually for something so much bigger than you. And if you can realize, and my favorite mantra throughout the last 10 years of building my business has been, this work is bigger than me, whether it comes down to the work that I'm doing with my coaches and my mentors, or the work that I'm doing with my clients. It really is so much bigger than us, even if you are just an individual choosing to say yes to your healing.
That's huge.
I want to weigh in as a middle-aged white man that
Go for it.
I've witnessed these transformations in my own mom. She's 81 years old. And over the past few years, I've watched her grow and change. A lot of it's because our conversations, and stepping into her empowerment fully, maybe for the first time in her life. And it's really touching to see that it can happen at any time. And so for our audience who feels trapped in their 20s or their teens or their
Or their
40s or
80s.
their 80s, no, that seed that Ava just spoke about is there. It needs nurturing. And sometimes it needs nurturing from outside forces. So go find those sources. You've got Ava, you've got us. There's plenty of light bearers who are willing to come alongside of you. And then secondly, there are good men out there too. And it is not about women have different needs, absolutely, but it is not about, oh, men don't get it. A lot of men do get it. And so I caution everyone to be careful not to say, well, men just don't get it. I could never understand it intimately, but I have been around it enough to understand it intimately enough to help and be a support. So let's just try not to label too much.
Yeah.
And let's also label the problems so that we can find the solutions and do this all together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of my favorite books that I've read this year is The Queen's Code by Alison Armstrong. And it's such a beautiful, from a female's perspective, on the masculine depiction of just the kind of wars that have been happening over the last 50 to 100 years, even beyond that, between men and women. And it was such a revealing book for me in all of the ways that we do create this like othering, whether it's from a female perspective or a male perspective. I highly recommend the book to anybody, but I agree with you. I think that the path forward isn't to continue othering, whether it's male, female, politics, anything. It's not to other, it's to come together and realize like this is going to sound a little cheesy, like we are one species, we are one race. And there's so much happening right now beyond the control of like what we are kind of led to believe is causing chaos and disasters in the world. And for us to have that level of empathy with each other, communication and understanding is ultimately how we heal. Like, we heal in community. I know that for you with your retreats and Vital Edge, like it really is community at the center point. It's for people to not feel alone, right? Because I think that that's the biggest thing that stops people from being able to grow, is that feeling of isolation and hopelessness that is often healed so quickly when you're in the company of other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I keep coming back to this. I just visualize this wave, and I just use the term collective consciousness, right? That we're not trying to other, we're trying to bring people alongside to say this is that community of support, of healing, where there's no separation.
Beautiful. Wow, we could do this for 4 more hours,
Right.
and I want to. And I really appreciate you being here. I know how busy you are and taking the time out of your busyness, which is the busyness you love.
The busy
Yeah,
mindfulness.
that's right, the busy mindfulness. And what is what is one thing that you would offer as a one sentence piece of advice based on what we've talked about today for people to start who have never engaged in mindfulness or maybe body work? What is one thing you would advise them to do today?
The thing that I always come back to is that you are worthy of sitting with yourself. And you are worthy of feeling good. You are worthy of being healthy. And I know for me, sometimes when I have resistance around my meditation practice or my breath work, I have to tell myself that of like, no, Ava, you're worthy of feeling good. You're worthy of feeling relaxed. And it's almost like when you go to the gym and you're kind of huffing and puffing on the way. You're like, I don't want to do it. It's going to be challenging. But then you leave the gym and you're like, oh my gosh, that felt so bad, so much better than I thought. And I feel so good right now. Or you go for a walk in nature and you're like, oh, I really needed that. And that's what these practices have in store for you. And even if it feels clunky in the beginning, you are worthy of feeling good and you are worthy of sitting with yourself. That's my run on sentence.
It's a great lead into promoting our retreat in September, because I think that getting out of your environment and spending a period of time in these practices allows you to integrate into your life when you come back from these retreats. And so, our retreat is September 11th through 15th in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. You can look at the show notes or go to our website to learn more, but we'd love to have you join us. And I want to thank Ava again for being here today, and my co-host Melissa.
Yeah.
And listen, take care of each other, and most importantly, don't forget yourself while you're out there taking care of others. And we'll see you next time on Rise and Thrive.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ava.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Again, I want to thank Ava Johanna for being on our show today and being such a great guest. She's doing such good in the world. Her Breath Academy is amazing. I am a graduate of the program, as I mentioned earlier, and she is doing good stuff out there. So tell us a little bit about what else is going on.
Yes, and it was a pleasure, Ava. She's an amazing being and doing a lot, as Scott said, in the world. And her recent thing is a book.
Yeah.
And she had a book launch in New York. We're very happy to share. So please check out on Amazon Your Vision Board Life. We'll also have it in our
Resource page.
Mm-hmm. How to Become a Woman Who Turns Dreams into Reality. I'm excited to order it and read it. So please check it out.
Even though her target audience is women, I can attest to you that it works for men too.
It does, yes.
Look at her book, and we'll see you next time here on Rise and Thrive.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Rise and Thrive. If you're ready for a deeper reset, join us for our upcoming wellness retreat in Mexico, September 11th to 15th. It's the perfect opportunity to recharge through movement, mindfulness, and connection. Visit VitalEdgeWellnessCoaching.com to learn more. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little more rise and thrive in their life. Follow us on your favorite platform to stay inspired. And until next time, keep rising and keep thriving.